Hello everyone, it's Killer Shrew Fan here, and I would like to start off this video by saying a quick apology. I know I was planning on doing a review for you guys on Friday, but it just didn't happen. I just ran out of time. I didn't have time to record a new one and put it up for you. So, very sorry there, but good news is there will be a review video for you tomorrow, and it's going to be a good one, so I promise I will make it up to you. But anywho, I saw Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom on Friday in my hometown, and I want to talk about it now. Again, I'm sorry I didn't do this sooner, but I had to pick up some extra shifts at work this weekend, so once again, I didn't have time. But yeah, I saw this film on Friday, and I did not like it, which is a shame. I really, really, really wanted to love this film. I went in expecting to love it, and I just left with a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm going to talk about the film, and while I do that, I'm going to bring up why I didn't like it, yeah, just put my thoughts out there for you. Now, please be advised that in doing this, I am going to talk about several different scenes, several different characters, several different parts, so there are major spoilers for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom ahead. If you have not seen it, you have been warned. I am going to spoil the crap out of it. But my problems with this film began almost right off the bat, so here we go. If you haven't seen it, this is your chance to get out. We're starting here. My problem started almost right off the bat with the opening scene. It starts back on Isla Nublar during a heavy rainstorm. Some guys are there trying to get DNA from the Indominus Rex, and to do that, they have to go into the Mosasaurus pit and retrieve a piece of bone. While they are doing that, there are some guys on the main strip communicating with them via headset, and there are guys in a helicopter waiting to pick up the guy who's kind of communicating. And while this is all going on, we get the biggest tease from any Jurassic film ever. We hear the Dilophosaurus hoots, and we see a bunch of bushes rattle, but then we never see it. It's just a little itty-bitty nod, and honestly, that was the part where I'm like, okay, this might be a problem. I get that they don't have time to show us every dinosaur, and with all the new dinosaurs that they added, it makes sense that some of the older ones aren't going to get screen time, but the Dilophosaurus is the most underrepresented dinosaur in the Jurassic Park universe, and I honestly thought this was the moment where we were going to see it come back with a bang, and it just didn't happen. It was just a little backhanded remark, and that kind of soured me. The rest of the scene, it's a very cool way they shot it, and this is just kind of shows the genius of J.A. Bayona. Rexy appears through flashes of lightning, and she's stalking the guy on the radio transmitter, and then she attacks, she chases him down, but he escapes via the ladder, and of course, as he's hanging onto the ladder, the Mosasaurus jumps out of the water and grabs him. The bone is retrieved, but the submarine is destroyed off screen. It's heavily implied that it's destroyed, and while all of this is going on, the mechanism to close the gate to the Mosasaurus lagoon is destroyed by Rexy, and so the gate doesn't close, and the Mosasaurus escapes into the ocean. And then we never see the Mosasaurus again until the end of the film. I honestly forgot that the Mosasaurus was in this movie until the end of the film, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I wish that the Mosasaurus had had a bigger role in this film, but really it's just there for two cool shots. And honestly, my thoughts are, if you're gonna use the Mosasaurus in such a simple fashion, then just don't even bother. You know, I mean, the shots that it was in was cool, but it did little to service the story. And then we get the title sequence, which is also the flashiest title sequence we've ever gotten in a Jurassic Park film. So it's a little jarring. It kind of makes the film stand out from the rest in that it looks more like your average run-of-the-mill action film than a Jurassic film. But anywho, my issues with the opening scene, other than the Mosasaurus and the Dilophosaurus, was the fact that it played out almost exactly how we see it in the trailer. It was very well shot, and the ideas behind it were great, but it was so boom, 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 boom that it really wasn't all that exciting. It didn't move in a tense fashion. It didn't make me feel like I was sitting on the edge of my seat. It was just, it started, it played out exactly as you would expect, and then it ended, and it was like, maybe 2 minutes. I wish they had played the tension up in this scene better. I mean, if we had heard or felt the rumbling impact tremors that we always did. There were puddles. The guy looks and he sees the ripples, everything. I know I'm probably just asking for the older films when I sounds like that, but I mean, simple callbacks like that would work to build the tension and also service the fans. That's just my thoughts on the opening scene. But anyway, to the actual story, we see Bryce Dallas Howard. We're introduced to her character. She's running the dinosaur protection group, trying to gain support for her cause. Meanwhile, Jeff Goldblum is being questioned about what he thinks saving the dinosaurs or not, and obviously he's going to say, no, it's a bad idea. I know it's sad, but we got to leave the dinosaurs to die. Claire, on the other hand, is not getting a lot of support until she gets a call from Benjamin Lockwood, who happened to be John Hammond's old partner. While she's there, she meets his granddaughter, Macy, and he tells her that he plans to fund a rescue mission to relocate 11 species of dinosaurs to a sanctuary island. But his assistant, Eli, needs her help specifically on the island so that they can trigger the dinosaurs' tracking beacons and find them easier, but they also really need help in finding Blue. Because she is so intelligent, they're going to have a hard time tracking and capturing her. And Claire knows this. She tells them this. And that's when Eli says, we thought you would know someone that could help. So Claire goes to Owen, who is in the middle of building his cabin. The two have a beer, they catch up, there's some nice banter between them, but she asks Owen to come help, and he initially refuses. This, I thought, was very interesting. It kind of shows him being that kind of tough guy who doesn't want to show his emotion. I mean, it's obvious that he cares about Blue, but then when he's asked by Bryce Dallas Howard, by Claire, to return to the island, he just puts up this tough front and says, no, forget him, whatever. But then later that night, he pulls up this footage of him training the baby raptors. The baby raptors are adorable. Like, the reason I love Owen so much is that he represents everything that I want, which is having my own raptor squad. And the baby raptors in this film are just so cute. But then that kind of kicks him in the butt. He decides to join them on their mission to Isla Nublar to save the dinosaurs from an island that's about to explode. What could go wrong? So while he's on the plane, he meets our two new characters. We have Zia and Franklin. Zia is a paleo veterinarian, and Franklin is kind of like your gadgets and gizmos guy. These two new characters, I will admit, I think they're fine. They're not bad characters. I mean, Franklin, he's a funny guy. Zia, she's strong-willed. It doesn't feel like they're just there for useless reasons. We'll put it that way. They felt like they had a place in this film. So anyway, we get to Isla Nublar and we get a look at the setup that's going on there, the operation there. We meet Wheatley, who is kind of like the Roland Tempo of this film. He's kind of the head hunter. And while there, we find out that he has already succeeded in capturing most of the dinosaurs. They really just need them there for Blue. That's why they needed Claire and Owen and Zia and Franklin. And I was like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, but we're still going to see some dinosaur wrangling, right? I mean, this movie was set up as a daring rescue mission, but really, our characters get to the island, they set up the system to track Blue, and then Owen goes to find Blue. Once he finds her, they have a brief moment of interaction where Blue starts to trust him again. Then she gets tranked. We find out it was all a trick. They were double crossed. They just needed Owen to find Blue, and after that, they were gonna leave them there on the island to die. And then the volcano starts erupting. So it's like. So, anywho, my issues, I guess, lie in the fact that we have very little time on this island. We don't get to see the struggle or the challenges that are faced by this recon team in capturing the dinosaurs. I wanted to see more dinosaur capturing, because each different dinosaur would pose a different reason for being difficult to capture, I feel like, and I think it would be interesting to see how they went about capturing each different species. You could say I am asking for a film that is too similar to The Lost World when I have that as a grievance, and that's fair. But the other issue I have is that just being on the island is so fast-paced that we don't really have a lot of time to feel the severity of the situation, the impending doom. It doesn't feel like it plays in all that much. I mean, it's just there and then it starts. It's not like a time-sensitive mission. We don't feel any of that. It's just there and done. Volcano erupts, etc., etc. So, anywho, while they are capturing Blue, Blue is shot by one of the mercenaries. She's injured, and they trank Owen with the same tranks that they used to trank the dinosaurs. Zia, who was with Owen, pulls a gun on all of them. She's obviously outgunned, but she says if she dies, then Blue will die. Wheatley counters, if Blue dies, then Zia will die, and they just load everything up and get out of there, leaving the tranked Owen behind. They also lock Franklin and Claire in the operation room as lava starts spewing out everywhere, and as Owen comes to, while Owen is unconscious, a Sinoceratops comes in and starts licking him for some odd reason, and then it rears back and almost crushes him before continuing on. So he wakes up all groggy, and he sees the Sinoceratops was moving away from impending lava, and in a goofy scene, he tries to roll away from it successfully. It comes pretty close, but he gets away from it, and then he stands up and takes off. I didn't like this scene. I heard the footsteps, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be Rexy. And then we're going to have this tense scene where Owen's like, he can't move, obviously, and he thinks he's in trouble, but then the T-Rex can't see him because he can't move. No, it was just the Sinoceratops, and for some reason it licks him, which was kind of disappointing. I love the Sinoceratops. It's a very cool dinosaur. I'm glad that they're giving it its just deserves in here in this film. But I think it needed a better scene than that. And it does get one, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So Owen gets up, leaves, while Claire and Franklin work to escape the downstairs room. They let in a baryonyx, which tries to eat them. It gets lava dumped on it. And again, this is another scene that played out exactly as it did in the trailers. There was nothing new brought to the table. It was almost exactly what we saw. So they get out, they see the volcano eruption. Owen comes running out of the woods like, run, run, and all the dinosaurs are stampeding. Exactly what we saw in the trailer. Some new footage here. They get to the gyrosphere. They're attacked by the Carnotaurus. But it turns out the Carnotaurus wasn't going after Owen, it was going after a Sinoceratops. I thought this scene was really funny, because it's like every other dinosaur is running away from this impending, imminent doom, and then the Carnotaurus tries to stop the Sinoceratops and get a quick meal, and the Sinoceratops, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Let me go! It's just throwing it around, and the Carnotaurus won't give up until it's just hurled to the ground, and the Sinoceratops runs off. This was a fun fight scene. I enjoyed watching that. So, obviously, once the Carnotaurus is defeated by the Sinoceratops, then it goes after Owen, and it is attacked by Rexy, who pins it down and lets out her triumphant roar in a super iconic shot that's been in all the trailers. But then, obviously, there's like the eruption happens, and this huge shockwave hits Rexy, and she like shakes herself off and decides to get the heck out of Dodge. And so, everyone and everything is running away from this eruption, just like in the trailers. Owen gets lost in the flow. The gyrosphere shoots off the side of the mountain into the waters below. and Owen dives down and has to save it in a admittedly very claustrophobic and well-directed scene. It's just one long continuous take from inside the gyrosphere, so we feel the impending doom, the water rushing in, everyone's going to drown unless Owen can save them. We're right there with the characters in this scene, and it is such a cool sequence. I will give credit where credit's due. Meanwhile, the dinosaurs that jumped off the cliff are drowning all around them, which is heartbreaking. But Owen eventually succeeds in opening the gyrosphere. Everyone escapes, and they crawl up onto the beach. And then, there's that whole thing where it was all a lie. And then Chris looks up, and he's like, Chris Pratt, Owen, looks up, and he's like, not all of it. And we see the Baryonyx and Rexy getting helicoptered off the island. And I'm like, I have wondered how they save Rexy from that eruption sequence since December, since the first trailer dropped. How would they get Rexy off the island in such a time-sensitive fashion? And the film's answer to that question? Because they can. We don't see any of it. We don't see them having to subdue the T-Rex. We don't see them getting that harness around her. We don't see any of that. And normally that's fine, but I mean, it's like there is doom and gloom all around. Rexy is in a dire situation. Da-da-da-da-da-da, she's saved. I mean, that's it. There was no answers whatsoever. It didn't make any sense how they got in and out in the time that they did. And, if they had shown us how it worked, I would have forgiven it, but all we get to see is them helicoptering Rexy off the island, and it's just like, okay, well, I guess she survived. No big deal there. And I mean, that just kind of sums up my issue with the film, is the lack of dino wrangling that we get to see. That's my biggest issue, is the pacing on the island, how we get there, we get out, which is, just like the mission had to be, but at the same time, it's like, ugh, for God's sake, you can't just show us carting the Rex off the island. There had to have been some sort of setback there, especially during the eruption. How did Rexy escape the eruption? I don't understand. But anywho, they're loading all the dinosaurs up onto a boat. Claire, Owen, and Franklin have to get back to the boat and sneak onto it. And they succeed in a cool sequence of speeding after the boat and having to jump up onto the dock. We also get a good look at a young Stegosaurus animatronic. Wheatley pulls a tooth out because he's making a tooth necklace. I think Wheatley is a very good character. He's got this sort of thing where he wants to collect a tooth from each of the dinosaurs and make a necklace, which is a very cool trophy to want to collect. So yeah, I think they did a good job with his character, but I think he would have been even better if we got to see all of his kick-ass methods of taking down the dinosaurs and getting them off the island. Or, make us feel like maybe we can trust this guy, but then he does the double cross. I mean, the double cross comes so fast in the film, we don't even have time to think, yeah, this guy might have some redeeming qualities to him, like rolling tempo. But it just comes so fast in the film. And, I mean, speaking of Roland Temple, think of how that scene from The Lost World, where he brought down the bull T-Rex, the tension in that scene, the masterful direction, the musical score. We don't get any of that in this island scene. We don't get any of it, which is really unfortunate. But anywho, once they get onto the boat and they're leaving the island, this comes to the most emotional scene in any Jurassic film ever, and everyone who's seen the film knows exactly what I'm talking about. A lone Brachiosaurus makes its way down to the end of the pier as fire and flame erupt behind it, calling out to the leaving vessel. As the flames grow closer, everyone watches from the boat. There's this super emotional musical score. As the smoke and the flames engulf the Brach, it rears back on its hind legs in fear, and it is silhouetted against the flames, and it looks just like the Brach that we saw in the first Jurassic Park. It mirrors its pose. Everything about it is just a throwback and a reference, and I mean, just how fitting The last dinosaur that we see on Isla Nublar is the first dinosaur that we saw when we first went to Isla Nublar 25 years ago. This was a mark of genius from director J.A. Bayona, and it deserves to be praised. There's also a scene earlier on where Zia sees the Brack on the main street, and it just kind of walks by, and it's just kind of a cool little throwback. You know, it's the first dinosaur she sees, just like it was the first dinosaur we saw. But this scene was just absolutely heartbreaking, like devastatingly so. And it will stand as one of the most memorable scenes, not only in this film, but the entire Jurassic franchise.